Whether you're conquering professional exams or personal milestones, we welcome you to Beyond Clean's Confidence Certification, the 52-week test prep podcast series. With expert insights, actionable tips, and engaging discussions, we'll break down the toughest concepts in sterile processing and build your confidence every step of the way. Join host Sarah B. Cruz as she embarks on a mission to help you not just prep for tests, but craft your success story. And now your host, Sarah B. Cruz.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Confidence Certification, a 52-week test prep podcast series to equip you to take your sterile processing career to the next level. I'm your host, Sarah B. Cruz, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about making our study time count. So this week, we're going to be chatting about studying. Shocker, right? Who would have thought that's what we'd be talking about this week again? But if you've been hanging out with me every week, I really appreciate it. We'll focus on concepts this week that demonstrate that not all study time is created or spent equally. Because if you've ever stared at the same page over and over again, in that rereading time loop, or, when you reread something only to discover that you've read that already, and then you keep wondering, how many times have I read that? That's not making your study time count. Honestly, that is extremely discouraging. That happens to me a lot, especially when I'm losing focus or momentum. And that can discourage anybody from studying, especially when you're reading really heavy content like the sterile processing certification literature. It's so important. And a lot of the terms that you're seeing, you've never seen before. Or maybe you've seen them, but never grouped like that or explained like that. So being present in your study time is so necessary to make good quality study time count. Because remember, folks, it's only a pathway if you keep walking down it. And on this podcast, we're all about creating the pathway to certification. A pathway that works for you because it's customized for you and your study needs. So as we build the path to our certification, don't get bogged down by deviations or distractions or discouragement. Just keep getting back on that path and keep walking. Don't worry, I'll be right there with you. Beyond Clean and I, we're going to have your back, okay? So let's talk a little bit about study time. This is going to be the time you spend focusing on the materials you need to comprehend in order to pass your certification test. There are some chapters and some concepts in sterile processing that others may get faster than anybody else, right? Some people really gravitate towards assembly, and there's just something about the content about assembly that really sticks in their head easily. Whereas there may be people that can refer to disinfectants, detergents, and enzymes at the drop of the hat and speak to it like it's second nature. I'm going to strongly encourage you to not compare yourself to those around you. So let's start to go over some practical ways that we can really engage with making study time personalized to us. First, I'm going to strongly encourage you to incentivize yourself. Yes, listen, there is no shame in a little motivational game, okay? We reward ourselves in so many endeavors outside of studying. Think about it. You go to the gym dedicated and you get yourself a cheat day. That's just totally ruining all your gym days or whatever your mindset is behind that. I am not a dietitian or a nutritionalist by any means, but the fact that you are rewarding yourself for staying on track with something is being incentivized. All right. So you can do that for your studying practices. So what are you going to do to commit yourself to your study? A lot of the times, this motivation is the reason why you want to get certified in the first place. Like, are you trying to get higher pay? Are you doing it for personal success? Maybe you're trying to get a different job. Maybe you're trying to break into the field. Regardless if it's because someone is making you, I want you to dig deeper and challenge yourself as to why you want to gain certification. Doing things for other people and extrinsic motivators are great, but they seldom push us to the finish line. So find a way to motivate yourself and really connect to the reason why you want to get certified in the first place. This is going to be really important when we get to that point where we can't read one more page. Okay. And we're going to go over a few more tools right after this break. It's time for our mid-episode confidence boost, where we focus on a key sterile processing test concept. Now, there's no guarantee these concepts will be on the test that you take, but they are key concepts to the workplace and are discussed in the literature. Today we'll cover acronyms and SPD. Listen, we're not going through all the acronyms today. There's just no time, and this is a mid-session break, right? But it is going to be important that you are aware of the acronyms used in sterile processing. Some examples include OSHA, HIPAA, 1P, 2As, PPE, EPA, HSPA. Like I said, the list goes on and on. Understanding what these abbreviations mean is just as important as remembering how we abbreviate them. Sometimes the certification tests utilize the abbreviation or the full word in the question. If we can't recall what they mean, we may not be able to answer the question appropriately. Not to mention that these abbreviations represent key items, concepts, and professional groups that will be referred to throughout your professional career, inside and outside the department. So, take the time to learn not just the letters, but what they stand for. And then not just what they stand for, but what the groups or the concepts represent and their impact on patient safety. Because that's what it's all about, right? That's going to wrap this week's mid-session confidence boost. Good luck. All right, everybody, welcome back and thanks for joining us after the break. We have been talking about making study time count. And we spent some time before the break discussing what study time is really all about and what it means to us. So let's start talking about some tools we can use to really put that time aside and that energy into studying to make it work for our certification goals. One tool you can do is allocating time. Listen, there's a lot that goes into making study a habit. Please do not be so rigid with yourself. There's a reason why every new year, all these people start with resolutions that are forgotten by the spring. And that's not because they don't want to commit themselves to it, but it's because the way they think they need to commit to it is so rigid that it's not sustainable or realistic. And this can apply to the concept of allocating time to study for our certification tests. When we first set intentions or want to start creating new habits like studying, we're going to experience a burst of motivation and energy. And yeah, that's exciting. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to be certified. This is going to be great. And you go all out. But can you sustain that same amount of energy on the days when you have to work a double? Is that realistic when you have family at home that depends on you or outside of work obligations? Making sure our schedule for studying and how much time we're going to put in it is based on the actual life that we live and not just the motivation and empowerment we have when we have the idea in the first place will help us commit to creating good study habits and setting the time aside to study. One part of allocating time is also looking at what our inflexibles are. These are the things we absolutely have to be available for and can't compromise on. Seriously, what do you have going on right now? Work, kids, school. These are things we obviously need consistent time for, and they need to have time put aside for them. Some more than others, like, kids having a family, they kind of need that constant attention, I guess, depending on their age, right? So how are we looking at our inflexibles And then how do we build time around those? So make your list of inflexibles first, and then what time do you have left after that? Now that we've looked at different aspects that make allocating time a little bit difficult for studying, like inflexibles and setting really rigid structure, let's look at some other ways we can achieve quality study time. Notice how I said quality. Not good, not bad, but quality. And remember, we're challenging the rigidness here. So when I say it's quality, not quantity, I know that's a really big trigger in sterile processing. Okay. Listen, I'm not talking about tray productivity and bioburden in this place. I'm still talking about studying. Come back to me. Don't fall down that like, it's not quality, it's quant. Don't stay with me. Stay with me here. Okay. But when we talk about the quality of our studying, we have to recognize that we can only give so much time. So let's make it the highest functioning and the best time spent. One thing we can do to assure our quality study time is that we look at the environment we need to study in. You know, do you work best solo? How about some background noise? In a group, the possibilities are endless. So for me personally, some of my best studying was spent in the car directly after work with lo-fi music. Because I knew the moment I went inside, I was never going to look at that book again. Okay. And I started doing this after I had failed my third time and was getting ready for the fourth time to take the test. And there was just something about that secluded 45 minutes I spent in the car with my book, highlighting, reading, writing. Again, remember, I'm an audible reader-writer type of learner. And those 45 minutes were so sacred to me because my whole life was waiting for me inside. And I have this thing, I don't know if anybody else like this is out there, but when you go inside, you know you have something you absolutely have to do, but all the other stuff is important too. So instead of doing the one thing you need to do, you do all this other stuff instead. And now you're like, I didn't get the one thing done that I needed to get done. So because I was able to recognize the environment I needed to study, I was really able to give that 45 minutes of studying a day before I even went inside from home. So ask yourself, where are you when you get into your study zone, and where are you going to excel in that focus? I also want to encourage you to include rewards in your quality study. Who doesn't like to treat yourself, right? This helps me focus on what I'm doing because I have put the time aside to do the thing I would much rather not be doing, and then I am rewarding myself directly after. So back to the car example. I would study for 45 minutes and then I would go on my phone for 15 before going inside. I didn't cheat either. Seriously, I put it on airplane mode. I put it on silent, and I dedicated that 45 minutes. Oh, when that 15 minutes was so sweet. Talk about like a technology dependency that we're living in. Hi, I'm Sarah B. Cruz, and I am addicted to technology, right? But that 15 minutes after that good 45 minutes of focus felt so much better because I had done what I needed to do to really enjoy that time. I knew that the phone reward would work for me because I checked in with myself and what I wanted. Now, I didn't base the phone reward on anything else that anyone was telling me. One aspect of including rewards in your study time is that you don't base it on anybody else's should, coulds, woulds, ought tos. We aren't in the department here, folks, okay? We don't have to live by these regulations and standards that other people have set for us. That's an active way to break rigidness too. So are you studying based off of the way that's been told to you? Are you rewarding yourself based off of the way that other people think you should be? Don't do that to yourself because these are preconceived good study habits, and we're over the good versus bad here. We're trying to build quality that works for us. So, as we begin to wrap this episode, I have a little bit of homework for everybody. I want you to make a quality study schedule that works for you. Really, use it to create your own study foundation. Ask yourself about your environment, your inflexible, and your incentives. What are you going to do to commit to this schedule? And not with an iron fist, okay? Remember, quality, not good, not bad, quality. Some further questions you can ask yourself include, what time works best for me, AM or PM? And that can change. I used to be a night owl, but now I am one of those people who are productive in the morning. I hate to admit that, but I've become one of those morning people that the golden hour when everybody else is asleep, I just get the most done and my brain is the most high functioning. Another question, what do I get distracted by? Everything. No, if you just automatically default to saying everything, try to get a little bit more specific. Own it, and then maybe make it a reward. I am constantly distracted by my phone, so I kind of took advantage of that and used it as a way to reward myself when I focus on the study time that I've put aside. How long are you able to focus? Is it a half hour? Is it an hour and a half? Maybe you need a bunch of little 30-minute hyper focuses. That can be really great if you have kids, while you're cooking dinner. Maybe you're listening to a podcast or maybe you're listening to your notes. What kind of focus do you have personally and with your competing priorities, your inflexibles? So what can you do to navigate that time effectively in between? Am I being realistic? Remember the New Year's resolutions we talked about. These practices have to be sustainable. Don't make it rigid, so much outside your norm that you don't have any habits in place to support them. Quality is big in realistic approaches here. And that's going to do it for this week's episode. For more sterile processing education and resources, make sure to visit beyondclean.net or follow Beyond Clean on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to check out over 1,000 SPD-related videos at youtube.com/beyondclean. If you have any questions or comments for the show, you can reach out to info@beyondclean.net. Finally, make sure to download the Beyond Clean mobile app on the Apple and Android app stores so that you don't miss a future episode of any of the other awesome Beyond Clean podcasts. My name's Sarah B. Cruz, and you've been listening to Confidence Certification. Until next time, keep fighting dirty and pass that test with confidence.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast series are of Sarah B. Cruz only and do not represent the companies she works for or collaborates with.